Hey you guys, Kelly Walker Slaughter here, host of Warren First 931. We are at the amazing establishment of the detention center. We are going to be live until on and off from now till about 4 o'clock. And this is the Warren County Town Hall meeting hosted by Thomas E. Davis. He's actually running for the 4th congressional seat. In our upcoming election. And so before we get started, I know you wanted to say some thank yous and whatnot, so here you go.
Pass the mic, Dave. I like it. Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you all for coming out to this event and participating in what is our republic. Very important that we get to know our candidates, and I'll explain a little bit. We did invite all of the candidates that are currently announced in the 4th Congressional District. That's myself, Robert Arnold, and then also our incumbent, Congressman Scott Desjardins. Scott flat out said no thank you, and Robert Arnold, I don't know why, but he said he would come, and then for whatever reason backed out, which leaves me to answer questions. So I will try and be as entertaining as I can be. And we also have all the gubernatorial candidates that have announced, and it's just the Republicans. Little backstory on that. If you want to ask me afterwards, I will certainly explain what happened. But only Republican candidates are now or will be here. So for the gubernatorial candidates, when we do have Monty Fritts, who is here, and he will be taking questions after myself. And then Marsha Blackburn and John Rose were both introduced or invited to attend. And Marsha Blackburn's campaign said nothing up to the RSVP, our deadline to let us know. And then so that was no responses. She's not coming. And then the Rose campaign was in contact with us a little bit, and due to other scheduling events, will not be here. So that's our lineup. And like I said, I would like again to thank all of you for taking the time out of your days to come here and ask the questions and be involved in the process. And thanks to the Patriot Punk, he's over here filming on us too, and Kelly for moderating and for live streaming this for us. So very important to the environment today. A lot of our news is coming from more local sources, more local trusted sources. I know I myself, I've worked a few times with Kelly on some other things, and so I know I can trust that as a source. So that being said, y'all are well aware, but anyone that's online, we're broadcasting. If you have questions online, go ahead and start typing them in there. And then we have the stack of cards, and I have not seen them. Monty just showed up, so I know he has not seen them. So it's off the cuff for everybody to answer the questions as we see fit and to give you our responses. So with that being said, we're pretty we're okay on time. We've allotted an hour for myself and then an hour for Monty. But so if we have more questions, if y'all think of more, feel free to grab another card and write it up, or if we can be pretty informal as long as we're all come right up. That's fine too if you want to come up. So with that being said, again, thank you all for being here, and let's get after it.
All right. So again, in no particular order, these are going to be asked. So the first one up, it says, will you be against mandates? And it says example vaccines.
Yes. I'll talk a little bit more. Yeah, it's an individual choice. If you want to take a vaccine, that's absolutely your choice. But none of this should be forced upon you. And we all know we lived through the pandemic, and my family in particular had to make choices in that. My wife worked for the VA at that particular time, and it came down. You're gonna get this shot, or you can't work. And we made the choice to not take that vaccine, untested, unproven. And as we see now how it's playing out, that especially our younger folks are paying the price for that being compelled upon them. So absolutely not. That's a horrible idea to mandate that, and it goes all the way down to our kids too. So hope that answers the question.
There you go. And I'll also, as a citizen of the United States, one thing, we didn't get the COVID shot, and I was very fortunate to work at a place that didn't have to mandate that in our facility, and and I'm still living and breathing. And we actually, before COVID became a thing, the doctor said y'all must have had it before it was, and they told us you do not need the shot. And so, from a mom's perspective and just an individual, just always listen to your doctor and take the advisement of your doctor if you trust that person. You know. Next question: what is your message to Gen Z or Gen 2 or Gen Z? Thank you.
Um, yeah, no, and it is. It's a very important topic because what we're seeing now is generations that don't want to let go of power and control. So I would say step out into it, into the fray. For myself, I'm not looking to be an 8-term congressman, not a chance. I've been very vocal about this. 12 years is max you're getting out of me. I'm looking for that replacement. I'm looking for my replacement because you get into those positions and you get comfortable and complacent. And we see that now in our current representative, who is now just going along to get along. He's voting yes on raising our debt ceiling. He's voting yes on these continuing resolutions. And you got to look at the votes a couple down. He's voted yes on transgender affirming care in the military. And as I served almost 25 years in the Army. And outside of any type of belief system, that's a horrible idea for taxpayers to be on the hook for an elective procedure, and then the animosity and the degradation of our forces that's going to cause. So, but you got to pay attention and be informed citizens, informed voters, and go to the polls. And that's how you're going to have to take it. And some of the things I know that they're struggling with are, for example, the buying a home. And what we need to do as Congress right now is set the stage for the success. 50-year mortgage is a horrible idea and is not the answer. The answer is let's actually bring our manufacturing back. Let's get rid of the H-1B visas. Let's stop that mess. Thank you. And it's going to be a process. But that's how it's got to work. And right now we've got a Congress that is letting us down. I mean, the U.S. House just took like 2 months off because of this ridiculous CR. And again, these guys took 2 weeks off in April, I think it was. They took like 6 weeks off in the summer. Yeah. And there's typically, I think it's October usually, they'll have all the weeks that they're supposed to be, and I'm air quoting working because it's only like 2 to maybe 3 days a week. But all the other months, there's only 3 weeks that they're actually in schedule. So for those guys to be home that long is absolutely ridiculous. And then on the other side of that too, with the accessibility, all that time off, and where was our representative? He's nowhere to be found. So back to the original question, the message to Gen Z is stay in the fight. Engage in it and be part of the process. Come to the town halls, make the phone calls, especially from your districts, and be part of the party, Republican Party, conservatives. The America First is more what I'm framing it as now, because that's what we need to look at. We need to really focus on what we have going on here. So I hope that was roundabout way to be clear. I hope there was a good enough message.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like me and Tom have said on and off air many times. If you want to make or have change, you have to be the change. So be involved. Next question. Can we as citizens, veterans, put more pressure on the federal judges to understand the president and the top law of the USA? And it also says it's hard enough to get a lot done in the in the 4 years. Judges keep blocking the president.
So yes, that's a great question. And I would say the pressure needs to be put on Congress, because constitutionally, we hear the three separate but equal branches of government. That's incorrect. They are not equal because they have separate jobs. They do different things. There is overlap, and constitutionally, the question is like, okay, how many judges originally did we have, Supreme Court justices per the Constitution? And the answer is zero. The Congress then filled those positions, filled those lower positions also. It's up to the Congress, and then just like we pass regular laws, the president signs it in. So what we should be seeing is Congress stepping up and very clearly defining the roles of those lower courts, and stop the judicial tyranny. It's a long march to where we are today, but we are absolutely living under some judicial tyranny. And so that question is veterans, especially through your veterans organizations, and to any of my fellow veterans out there, if you are not part of an organization, Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legions, the VVA, if you're in the Vietnam era, the Marine Corps League, whatever, put your name on the rolls or put them on all, and then as best you can participate, because this comes down to lobbying, because all these organizations are indeed lobbyists. That's one of the things that I actually try and combat within the veterans organizations, the VFW, American Legion to be in particular. But you get this going around, this thought that we are non-political. We are absolutely political organizations. We're lobbyists. What we actually are is nonpartisan. So you don't pick sides. So whoever, because we're throughout the nation, live in different districts that are, controlled, I guess, or represented predominantly, either Republican or Democrat. And so you open the floor to everybody. And something I've talked about too is within our organizations out here is writing letters and asking candidates, but in particular our elected representatives, to come down and answer these questions for us. How are you representing veterans? Because we hear it all the time. Oh, I support veterans, until it comes to votes. Again, you got our current representative voting yes on transgender affirming care. You've got, they for some reason can't figure out how to actually do business in a way that keeps the government open. So our active duty troops are getting paid, and within the VA system, which there's a lot of work to be done there. And they tell us they support us, but then when it comes down to it, who do they start talking about cutting benefits that are earned? So that's how we do it. And stay involved in those organizations as best you can, and at least be a member, and then as active as you can. And then for those organizations to be sending letters to those representatives. So that would be my answer to that, and how we as veterans do that.
Awesome. This next question starts out with a Bible verse. It says Deuteronomy 28:23 warns, "A nation that you have not known shall eat up the fruit of your ground and all of your labors, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed continually." This describes God's response/judgment on a nation that engages in child sacrifice. God's standard hasn't changed. So, how can we hope to stop the invasion of our country if we aren't also working at both state and federal levels to abolish child sacrifice?
Yes, that is.
I'm glad I don't have to answer this.
Right. She said, I don't know if it's picking up, but Kelly said she's happy she doesn't have to answer this question. Very, very difficult, I guess, and not really difficult, but it is. We must protect the unborn. I kind of think I know where the question came from, but I think constitutionally it is up to the states. I can see, however, I mean, we as a government protect life. That's our preamble: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And to protect the unborn is absolutely critical. And if we're not, and truly, if we say we are a Christian nation, then we should be putting that on. And some of the things we see as we talk about this since Roe v. Wade has been overturned, it's unfortunately actually the abortions have gone up. And we actually, the thing we have going now is the pill to take. And what we don't talk about on this is the complications that it actually causes for the mother too. Upwards of like 40%. Yeah, side effects, just like we already talked about the vaccines, right? And for that, that's a horrible on both counts. So should we be legislating this? Yes, we should. And like I said, at the states, and that's the difficult part, is because constitutionally it's difficult to lay that out in there on the federal end. Now, so then that turns it over to who? The states, and then we the people. And so then the other side of that is we should be hearing this stuff in our churches. We should. We should absolutely be hearing from the pulpit these topics, the topics of abortion, the topics of we are in a unique situation in this nation and the founding of it. And if you go back to the founding, our pastors, the British they called them the Black Robe Brigade, because our clergy would preach the sermons on the freedom and liberty and the responsibilities of citizenship, and then tell the congregation and then themselves, they would pick up their arms and go put it to work in the battlefield. Now, I'm not suggesting we're at a point right now where we need to do that. We still have some opportunity in this nation to take that to the ballots. And if we as Christians stand up and take that to the ballot, we can take it back. Between Christians and gun owners, that's some of us that are most likely not to vote, which is horrible. That's part of our responsibility, duties as citizens to vote. And so again, back to our clergy in those churches, that's where we should be hearing this. Our clergy should actually be speaking out, and then also, just like I talked about with our veterans organizations, our churches should be involved in this process. And there are some churches out there that are boldly living it and are actively, that you have pastors that actively, talk about it, preach it, and then to actually endorse candidates. And that's some of the excuses I've heard about it is opinions within the church. And kind of my thought on that is, I don't think Jesus was too awfully concerned with opinions. So if we're more interested in how many people are sitting in the seats versus the message, and the message is the important, and they will come. I think there's a hunger out there for the word, and where do you go to get that? And you should be hearing the truth. So they should be doing that. And then now, and the other part is a hesitancy because of the government. We're afraid of the government. And this is all your nonprofits, because we're afraid of losing the nonprofit. And to both of those organizations, our veterans organizations and our churches, one, who's in charge? Is it God or is it government? And thank you. As a Christian, the answer is God. So as Christians, why are we in fear of our government? We've got it twisted, or we have allowed it to get twisted. And as Christians, as churches, as the church, we should be taking it back. And for veterans, especially when I'm standing in a room full of, at a VFW meeting of combat veterans, how have we gotten to a point where the nation's warriors are afraid of the government because of a nonprofit status? Horrible. So, and we should be demanding this of our organizations, of our clergy. We should be hearing these. And as a church, then, supporting those within the congregation that are running for office. You should absolutely have a church that is lifting you up on that mission. I kind of feel like I'm taking more than my 3 minutes on these questions.
I didn't know I was supposed to be keeping time. Tom, come on now. Next question. With the youth voters being more susceptible of the Israel, how do you feel about U.S.-Israel relations going forward?
So I think all of our money going overseas, we need to take a hard look at. With the issues that we have going on in this country, that I'm of the opinion that the baseline is $0 going overseas, especially to nations that hate us, and then organizations that have been funding an invasion of this nation. And then as far as Israel, and that one in particular, I will say as a nation, the nation of Israel has every right to be defending itself. Our involvement in that, again, back to funding, we can look at that. Because the case can be made that this nation of Israel is not the Israel of the Bible. And for that, I look to Matthew 21:43. Because, I mean, who killed Jesus? They missed the boat. And again, not to say that any harm to them. They've still got time to understand that they've missed that and to accept Jesus. And like I said, as a nation and as an ally, we can take a look at it. But right now, with the state of this nation and our economy, we need to be sending just probably about $0 overseas.
It's crazy we've fallen on these questions about with Christianity and with Israel, and this comes up to this one. Do you consider yourself a Christian? And how long it says, how long would you share your testimony?
How long?
That's what it is.
Okay. Okay, I get it.
I'm just Ron Burgundy up here, guys.
I got you. So the question is, do I consider myself a Christian? Yes.
How long have you been a Christian?
How long?
I guess?
And I guess, yes. And I think this kind of goes with sharing my testimony. Absolutely. So my full, my full walk to it was a long road, and I don't have any. I can't point to like the day, the time, the hour, and that's something that I struggle with, because I hear testimonies like I remember right down to the minute, and I don't. But I have some events throughout my life that have kind of led me to it, and then and just some times overseas, and I've believed, but never really like stepped into it. And so fully took it on and understood, like, yes, I understand there's a God. Yes, I understand, Jesus. I read the Bible, and lived a life of sin, like we all do, and we all struggle with it. But the kind of the watershed moment for me, I guess, was and my ex-wife had wanted me to read Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ, because I'm very logical, and I guess probably by definition doubting Thomas, and so I really need to see things and to have an understanding of them, and to be able to logically to see, and so this book, and if you are in a position where you're questioning or you need that. I highly recommend that book. But he went through trying to disprove, and absolutely proved it. And that was the book I read. It was like, okay, this is it. I understand this is the real. After all the other stuff I had gone through and trying to, justify. And I think part of it is it's hard to accept the sinful nature that we have, and that there will be an accounting of it. And so we try and find other things that will lessen that. And it doesn't change the truth that you will answer for it, and that we have Jesus to cover for those sins. And then the other side is to then try and to show the fruits of it. And that's what the book and the chapter and verse that I quoted earlier. You kind of take a look at where are the fruits of your Christianity, and so then and still even a walk into it, and then getting into the Scripture and having that foundation, And so that's currently where I am. Is yeah, on the walk, and getting to the point, because and that's the other. It's like to hear guys that can quote the scripture. I'm like, all right, I got work to do, and so that's where the work comes in. Along with this, and being called into this. And it's like, man, this is quite the undertaking. So yeah, so that's did I answer them all? Was
I think so, yeah.
faith?
That was your testimony.
I shared my testimony. So thank you.
Love that. And as a Christian myself, I always say this to a lot of my friends. And if you're watching the show, whether you believe in God or not, God is always there. He's just waiting for you, and you may have to go through trials and troubles to get to that point. But at the same time, we're always learning and growing. And the day that you decide that you can't grow anymore is the day you die. And I think every opportunity we have is a growing moment. If I last till I'm 90, I hope I do. Flipping the coin on this one, do you have a criminal record? I don't know this about Tom, so I'm very curious. I feel like this is a dating show now. And if so, what for and how long ago? What happened? Somebody must know you. I hope this is wrong.
I don't know.
Have you got in trouble?
I have.
Oh, okay.
So, and I will say, yeah, followed up having shared my testimony. Now I get to talk about my checkered past.
I didn't mean it to happen like that.
No, so the answer to the question is yes. As a juvenile, I was arrested, yeah. So I'm 54 now, so this was, I think I was 16 during that event, joyriding. I won't go into the long story of it, but poor choices, and I paid for it. And then I guess it was just as I was had just turned 21, and it started out I was charged with DUI, and then wound up the way the system is. I was convicted of careless and reckless, and all of this has been disclosed. When I hired on as a law enforcement officer in Prescott Valley, so they saw fit to hire me. And then since then, civil traffic. That is the question was criminal. So I've had a couple of tickets. I couldn't even tell you when the last one was. And then when I went through the background check to join the police department, they couldn't even find that careless and reckless. So like, all right, that's how it was. That was. When was it? Early 90s. So, and then like I said, some. I think I got a couple speeding tickets. That's why. So yeah. So that's all I've been caught doing. So not that there's other stuff. Yeah. So.
Especially with all these speed limits changing on a whim, you can't tell anymore unless it's on your phone when it goes click. You're laughing because you know it's right. All right, next question. It says, senior citizens work their whole life and pay off their home Social Security, and Social Security doesn't cover much anymore. Can we do no property taxes for those people? That's a good one.
That is. And
you want to hold on to that just in case?
So, and this one is more of a state issue. To have no property tax, and even more so county. So this is more at a county level, and I'm absolutely, and I'll back up a little bit to the Social Security. One, it's strange to me that yes, and we have no choice in it. The government just yoinks this money from us, and it's been changed. Social Security was never meant to be a retirement. It was supposed to cover a gap between what you had set up for in retirement and inflation. But however, since its inception and creation of it, we have been led down this road that's your retirement. And unfortunately, we're in a position now that we have got to start talking about this stuff. Myself, I'm looking at, when I get to that age, I'm already looking at a 70% reduction in what I should receive, which is ridiculous. So, and now can we just say we're going to stop? No. But we do need to have a plan to get out of that. Sunset it, and there's, again, has to be a plan. We have to come back in school and in our families and teaching our kids how money works and understand you are going to be on the hook for this. Because again, where in the Constitution can we say that the federal government should be doing this? And as far as Social Security. So like I said, we can't just flip the switch on this. We do have to have a plan to do this. And that's kind of, as I've gone through this, a realization that I will have to vote yes on some unconstitutional stuff. The caveat then has to be that there is a plan to get us back to the Constitution. Otherwise, like, yeah, no, this is we've got to talk about this. And then again, those property taxes, that's start talking to your commissioners and your county executive, and that's horrible to have paid off your house and then you don't own it. That if we think we own our homes, we're delusional. So that's where that question lies. That one, Monty may want to take note of that one.
That's a both question.
Oh, is it both?
Yeah, that's a both question. So he better mentally prepare for that one.
Did he leave? He's getting the heads up.
If elected, how will you support the Tennessee walking horse industry?
So I will actually work to solve the problem. From what I've seen, there is a problem, and I will say some of it. And I talked to some folks out there in Bedford County, and some of it, is a little bit self-inflicted, but they are being unfairly targeted. Have done work to clean up the industry, but what we have now, and the way it's been explained to me, is our current representative drops placeholder legislation as a defensive measure. So if those that are targeting the industry want to try and push something, then there's something in the queue, which to me is a horrible idea. Let's fix the problem. And I actually have with my kind of honestly limited understanding and knowledge of the problem, have come up with a couple bills. But you get the industry itself involved, and then and get the parties together, because this is big in this district and in Bedford County in particular. And let's solve the problem, and not just like, hey, look, I'm doing a thing. Look,
Look, I'm over here.
Yeah, and then actually do yeah. And that was, I've been asked this question before, and my question back, especially those that are still in support of Congressman Desjardins, is are you better off now than when he first took office? And you know what? When the one particular time I was asked that question, I kind of got the deer in the headlights look. It was like, you know what? Yeah. So yeah, put it into those terms. Are you better off there for having had Congressman Desjardins for 8 terms? So was that the only question I got? I think.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, I'll just that particular.
Yes. In your opinion, what is Tennessee's highest priority? All of them. Say all of them.
Yeah. So as I see it, and especially looking to as a House representative, the biggest problem we face right now is our deficit spending and our national debt. That is the biggest thing we face right now. And how do we fix that? Is we require the government to live within its means. Again, our representative now is voting yes on these continuing resolutions. And he's voting yes to extend or raise our debt ceiling, and it's kind of hard to say, but what we have is 2 parties they're the same coin. The only thing they're arguing about is what to spend the money that we don't have on. How can we deficit spend? And the Republicans, we want to send it all overseas to nations that in a lot of cases hate us, and to organizations that do not have our best interests in mind and will funnel an invasion. You have on the Democrat side similar, but then they want to also overspend our money on illegals here in this nation and non-citizens. That was, we just went through the shutdown, and what kills me is these guys, there's like a big surprise. Wait, what? We got illegals that are getting access to our taxpayer dollars? It's like, yeah, really. It's like, how do you not know? And then, like with our food stamp program, was it 59% of those receiving those benefits are non-citizens. Not necessarily all of them are illegal, but non-citizens. That is crazy talk to me. That you're not a citizen and you're getting this. And then even that program comes back to show me in the Constitution where this program is. And I'm not saying we should not help those that need some help, but the federal government, one, it's not in their charter to do. It's not in our contract as states and as citizens for the federal government to perform that function. Who's better served to do that? The local level, us as citizens, and we have prime examples very recently, just last year, with Hurricane Helene coming through. And just as an example of who's better served or who better to serve these local communities than local communities and citizens. But who was there faster? FEMA or local agencies? The answer is local agencies. Your churches, that's and that's how we as Christians then, hands and feet, take care of our own at that level. And think about all the resources that are soaked up in administration coming, so they got to take it to Washington, D.C. and then dish it out. That's a horrible idea. So if it's not constitutional, we need to get it to who's best served doing it. And in a lot of these cases, the federal government is not our best hope. So.
Thank you. And on that note, with the SNAP, benefits, I want to say thanks to all the Warren County locals and organizations, the churches, and including our very own Zaxby's that stepped up immediately and stated, hey, one meal per day, whatever it was, because it's like you said, the local people always stepped up first. When the North Carolina thing happened, people stepped up first. I remember Warren County had the clothing bus, and how many times did it go up there? Randy England took up there, and that guy kept saying how much appreciative he was, so grateful of local people. And that speaks volumes to me. And if we have that much local help, I don't mean to take your time, but this is how I get sometimes. If we have that much local help, why can't we keep it local, to a point? Next up, what is your position on the Second Amendment, repealing constitutional gun laws and true constitutional carry?
This was actually pretty easy to answer.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it says what it says. Shall not be infringed. The 1934 National Firearms Act and the 1968 Gun Control Act are unconstitutional and should be repealed. And that is one of a personal issue of mine to work diligently on that end, because we've got it in our minds that throwing money at it and taking objects away from people is the answer, and it absolutely is not. And just as some outside of the box thinking as far as what is caused, because it's violence that we're looking for. We hear, wow, we got to end gun violence. We got to end gun violence. Okay, I'm with you. However, how about we just take and I'm not saying, like I said, I already said, but the root of that phrase is violence. So what do we need to do to address that? Some things I've thought of, and this is, as a society, we've kind of looked down on, but that one-room schoolhouse, that is what got us to where we are. And there are some advantages to that. So what I'm saying there is smaller classrooms and more direct contact from those teachers. And we can look at it as the whole structure of it. We need to relook. Then go back to that, and I applaud here in Warren County, we have one of those. And so what that does is it sets up mentorship. Yeah, a mentorship is the older kids then mentor, and that also helps you as the teacher that you're now responsible, and it helps your own learning. If you're teaching somebody else, that's a great way to learn is to teach. But then you can spot some of those needs within that in those smaller classrooms. And so to relook at the schedule, why did it's, oh my God, how much time are we taking off now, in school? So restructure it, get rid of the whole summer's off. It's just as some ideas out there, week on, week off, 2 weeks on. And this is, and again, this comes back to we have a federal Department of Education. Horrible idea. The needs here in Tennessee are much, here in the 4th district, in Middle Tennessee, are going to be even different from East Tennessee or West Tennessee. What those businesses and parents are looking for in this district. So this should be under local control. And again, this goes to our tax dollars going to Washington, D.C., getting filtered, and then winners and losers picked. And even here in Tennessee, with what we've got, for me personally, and all my kids have graduated high school now, but this voucher program was horrible. And the only ones that I talked to that wanted it are those organizations. You hear the teachers unions, and that horrible idea. This is a more of a local and even, I would say, even regional coalitions amongst bordering counties. The closer you are to home taking care of this problem, the better off you are. So did I hit the question?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, perfect.
You got it all. And I will say on the education part, my son goes to Orchard Grove. The classrooms are no more than 10 per classroom. And my son says, and if anybody's watching this, and I'm not against public schools or anything like that, but he said the school that he was at last time to the one he's at now, he said that, Mama, teachers look so tired and bogged down that they don't want to teach anymore, to the point that, why do I want to go to a school and pay attention to a teacher that doesn't look like she cares? And this new school that he goes to, he said they are smiling, they're happy, he's learning. His lowest grade, he's never made A's and B's, and we just got his report card, so I'm giving him a little shout out. The lowest grade was 95. So yeah, so it's all about, we gotta help out these teachers, and the only positive I would like to add to your voucher, if there has to be one, is those kids that don't have that opportunity to, say, go to a private school to get that education, because they might wake up, what's it called? They wake up and they're Einstein, they're the prodigies. That's the only reason I could see that being something positive. Yeah.
So we get into this, and was that a both question? I hope it is.
Oh, I haven't read it yet.
No, I'm going back to the schools a little bit. I hope that's a both question, because
It is.
the answer is not throwing money at it. Because then what's the question? How much money fixes the problem? The answer is we don't know. And is our government just want to grow? Like, we need more money? No, knock it off. Kick it down to that lowest level. I think it's 19,000. I think is the number I've heard, about $19,000 per student in this state. I think it was roughly, like 7,000 or so comes from the federal government, and then that leaves Tennessee on the hook for the other 12. My number, I could be a little off, but we shouldn't. The federal government shouldn't be getting that. But again, it's not necessarily how much money you're throwing at the problem. So yeah, so we got to look at some other things. So.
All right, this is a both question as well. The number of Muslims in Tennessee, how do we stop the Sharia law? Is that how you say it? Sharia law, and their religion and Christian religion, so not mix. Okay.
Okay. I think so again, we have to go back to us as a nation. We are a Christian nation founded on Christian values. And we have been this beacon of light to those out there. And we're in a position right now, we have allowed this invasion to happen. And so I would be a very, very vocal proponent of let's stop any type of, the baseline should be, we are going to put a complete pause on immigration. And this goes, and refugees also. We take a look at the refugees that we have in this nation. How long have you been here? It's time to go back, handle your own business, and get us back to a Christian foundation. And then if you want to come to this country and integrate into the American culture as a Christian nation, that's fine. We're not saying you have to be Christian. You can be a Muslim, but what we're not going to have, and what we shouldn't have, are mosques exploding all over the place. We should not hear in our towns 5 times a day a call to worship. If you're a Muslim, you want to hear that, go back to a nation that is already under this law. and those that are here, illegally, and those that are here to not, to cause us harm. And they're very open about it. If we just looked at what happened in New York City, they're very open about it. And our Constitution does not mesh with Islam. There's no way around it. This is a Christian nation. And our founders even told us it doesn't work without that base of Christianity. It does not. So and if we need to, unfortunately pass laws at that federal level, because again, you look at some of these towns, Dearborn, Michigan, or is it Minneapolis? I think is it Austin? But some of these other places are in Texas, where they're like no-go zones for our American U.S. Law enforcement agents. That we're in a bad place. And yes, how do we fix that? Again, with that legislation. And again, a lot of this comes back down to us at the county, city, county, state levels to fix this. But then on the federal level, let's if we need to codify that, you will not have these enclaves, that, Sharia law, you will not have a pocket of this type of stuff within the nation, then let's go.
Mr. Davis. I can't believe I'm calling you so proper these days. Running against an incumbent in the primary is tough battle. Do you have a very specific areas where you can show the public great reasons to pick you?
Yes. The first one is accessibility. So, and that is, our incumbent has not held a town hall since 2013. I will hold them quarterly. To me, it's too easy, and especially even now, you can come up with one kind of on the spot in these particular situations, like today. Like today, he very well could have shown up today. It's a Saturday. I guarantee if he's in Washington, whatever, he could have set his schedule to be here. And even that, going back to that, how much time they took off. So quarterly town halls. Too easy to come back and say, hey, call us. I'm a Republican, or in the Republican Party, and again, invite everybody. And this is how I talk about it, is we can have the discussions, and we can talk like adults. If you're coming to do that, that's fine. If you're coming to act like a child, you're going to get treated like a child and be asked to leave. If you can't do that, then you will be escorted out. We're here to have some civil discourse if necessary, explain, and I'm laying out ahead of time my votes on how, and my principles, my values, and how I'll vote in the lens that I'm looking at it from. And again, we're getting some wavering from our congressman and how he's voting, and some of that is then again these votes. So I already mentioned he's voted yes on transgender affirming care in the military several times. I'm a hard pass on that on several different levels and reasons. So you'll see that difference. An actual effort to solve problems within the district, an actual effort to get the federal government out of our lives, out of our houses, out of our pockets. And that's some of the biggest ones. So.
Tom, would you vote to repeal the Patriot Act?
Yes. Yeah. We had some more folks filter in, friends, obviously. Yeah, absolutely. That was and oh my gosh. So this takes us back to currently, we have our representatives voted yes to slip money into the CR for our senators that were spied on. They authorized this. When did that? Yeah. So I don't think. Forget the timeline. That was earlier. So Congressman Desjardins was not there to vote for that, but we do have representatives that were serving and voted yes, and now they're mad and they're trying to take taxpayer dollars because they've suffered some whatever. But it comes back to that CR. Yes, it's a horrible idea. I don't know. This one makes me a little irritated. So
I calm down. You're getting red.
Let's
get the Santa suit on you.
Oh my gosh!
You got the cherry cheeks right now.
The Patriot Act is a horrible idea, and it has done nothing. And it's how they misname bills. They call it a Patriot Act, and all it has done has been turned internally and targeting American citizens. So Yeah, so the answer is absolutely. Let's get it going.
Tom, will you take money from, I'm going to say APEC, AIPAC? APEC?
That one, if this is the one I'm thinking of, the answer is no. I'm not going to say I will not take PAC money, but I will be very selective in the PAC money that I take. They must support values that I hold, and then the understanding that that does not gain special access or special leverage on me to vote. I represent the citizens of Tennessee's 4th Congressional District. Ideally, I do not have to take any money from PACs at all. My call is for us as individual citizens, because it does. The fact of the matter is, it takes money, especially to beat an entrenched incumbent who is not looking to leave anytime soon, even though he ran on 12 years. He ran on term limits. And again, he's in his, do the math, this will be 16 years at the end of this term. But ideally, it's those small, $10 a month. Go onto my website, go on to WinRed, $10 a month, $20 a month, and contribute that, your skin in the game at the federal level, to fund this campaign, to take what is our voice to Washington, D.C. So that one in particular, if that's the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
This one's a long one. It says, on the heels of the longest government shutdown, what are your thoughts on, I'm not going to be able to read it. Is that consequences? You wrote in cursive. Oh, okay, I'm getting a nod. What are your thoughts on the consequences for legislators that burden the work of the American people? Okay, there you go. And then obviously, no pay during, I'm going to say the absolution or a shutdown. But what offer consequences should be imposed and special elections too? Kenny, is this your writing? Let's just do one at a time. Let's do it. So, what are your thoughts on the consequences for legislators that burden the work of the American people? Let's start with that.
Okay. That burden
The work of the American people.
Okay, and I think this is through legislation.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't need to get paid, but what other consequences should legislators suffer for not?
I got you. Yeah, they shouldn't be getting paid. They should suffer at the ballot box. That again, they all, and some of this is leadership there or lack thereof. And I focus more on, like I said, on the House of Representatives. But yeah, they took a big vacation. They're going to get paid, which they shouldn't be. But as one legislator, can I try and push legislation to put that in? Absolutely. I mean, will it pass? I can't guarantee any of that. So the other consequences is then they come back. Oh, we need to remember this stuff that through the shutdown and the type of legislation that they're passing, and it's the primary is where we send our message. Like we're done with the nonsense. You guys, you go up there, you're sent up there to do a job. Do the dang job. Goes back to all the time they took off over the summer, all the time they took off, and then back to and our representative. Extra days off he's taken this year, and he's got a pretty poor attendance record. Look this up, and the numbers have probably changed, but he's in the top 100 of having missed the most votes. This year alone, he took extra time off. Back in January, we had the storms, which and I called and asked, and it was like, well, the weather. Okay, I can accept that. Except every other national representative, our senators and our other congressmen made it to Washington, D.C. to cast their votes. At the end of the day, that's what you're getting paid to do, is go cast your vote. And he said, yeah, no thanks, I'm out. And a couple other times. But go look at his record. So, but that's how we send that message. And other consequences is at the ballot box. Start switching these guys out. And I would say for every party, because we're all, is that the time we're hitting the,
What?
trying to, oh yeah, we better wrap it up.
Okay.
So,
Okay. We have
so yeah, that was other things. Is that the ballot box?
Okay. Well, there you go. So do you want to do one more?
Yeah, we can. And then I was
Okay.
going to say we do have, we're actually not set to switch over till 2:15.
What time are we at?
We're at 2 o'clock now.
Oh,
Oh
awesome.
no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2:15 is the switch.
Okay. So let's see. You know what? Let's do this. And I
Monty,
say-
are you good on time? Monty, are you good on time? Okay.
You want to just do the last three?
Yeah.
Okay. Just talk faster, Tom.
Do it right.
Use less words.
I need everyone to listen fast.
Healthcare is out of control. Insurance companies make, oh, good Lord, y'all. I love your handwriting today. Billions, thank you. What kind of plan action can you and the federal government talk to address this corruption?
The answer is get the federal government out of it as much as we can. I think that in this room, the understanding that this is a government-created problem goes back to our Obamacare, the American or the ACH, right, Affordability Care Act. If we're at the point now, we have to subsidize the mess out of this, so we're redistributing wealth and we're mandated to do these things. This goes to a lot of things, to get the government out of this, because what happens is then these companies know that they can just start boosting prices. And so who suffers? We do out on this end of it. So that, a specific plan I do not have, but I do understand the problem and that we need to get the federal government out of it. And I don't know if there's another question on it, but another example is our education system, in particular our colleges. Again, point me in the Constitution where it says the federal government should be giving any taxpayer dollars to colleges. And you see, especially for what we're getting out of these colleges. But you take that back, make it more free market to colleges and our healthcare, and you get a better product. You have to compete for it, and especially, and then you as the consumer, you take better care of yourself, because that's another component to it, is us taking better care of ourselves and being healthy. And part of it too is to our food industry and the junk that is put out on our shelves. But again, it comes back to us, and there is individual responsibility in all of this. It's not completely up to a government to solve our problems, and that's another thing is we the people need to get back to is looking to solve our own problems, but putting the government in check and getting it into its lane.
Next up, what can you do to save the hemp industry?
And again, this is and it goes back to our ag bill. It was 2018 that they passed this and said, yay, you can grow hemp. And I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but hemp is a far superior product to cotton. And it has over, 25,000 uses versus several hundred for cotton. Let me address the question specifically. Is again, let's get the federal government out of it. Why are they regulating this mess? Yeah, less government. I mean, I probably could have just answered that and wrapped it up. Less government. Let's go. But again, it's a far superior product. And then and this is an argument that's used on us all the time. It's for the kids. We got to save the kids, right? Which, yes, we need to be protecting our kids. However, to say we can't have this product, and I'll be the first. I don't use the CBD. I do understand that it's helpful to a lot of folks. I don't. I have smoked marijuana. I guess that would have been a crime back then, so I wasn't caught or convicted. But as a in my youth, so as a juvenile again, it's forbidden in the Army to do that. So I haven't, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not an advocate for it. But on the other side of it too, you have free will in this. And, arguments we made, alcohol, but back to, the kid argument. This is what we hear. And we heard it from our own congressman on 99.7. On with Matt Murphy. It's like these kids, they eat too much. There are exactly 0 documented cases of anybody dying from CBD. Same thing for marijuana. So, and again, I'm not going to say, hey, go start getting high or whatever. But the consequences, just like your alcohol use and choices, responsibly. If you're gonna, if you're drinking, we got laws for that, right? If you're impaired, you're gonna suffer those consequences. The least of which is a loss of license and revocation or fines. The high end of that is loss of life for others and yourself. I'm a firm advocate. It should hurt to be stupid, but your stupidity should not impact others. So, again, if we hear that kid argument, it's nonsense. Again, not to say we shouldn't be watching out for our kids, but let's be realistic about it. And then to protect that industry, let's farm it. It's a very, and already in Tennessee, it's a 25 million, at least 25 million, I think billion. All the numbers. It's a lot of money. It's big in Tennessee already. That the CBD, and like I said, it is helpful to people. So why are probably more helpful than those that are using alcohol to deal with their problems. So that's what we do. Less government.
Thank you. And I always say this too. I think when something that could be a good thing, it's up to the person to make it a good choice or a bad choice. It's not the government. We have recently witnessed the President of the United States target Republicans who have stood up for our constitutional rights. How do you plan to navigate the peer pressure in the go along to get along government?
Oh, awesome. There is a line in, so I think we might have covered. So I served almost 25 years in the Army. I was a non-commissioned officer, the creed of the non-commissioned officer. There was a line in that creed that says, I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. I lived that in the Army. I've lived that outside of there or since leaving the Army. And you just have to be able to stand up to for your values. I have a Christian base. And again, fellow Christians come alongside me within this run to hold me accountable, but to remember that that's where I'm ultimately responsible for. And I understand there will be pressure up there. No means no. If it's unconstitutional, again, we need that. The first answer needs to be no, and then let's take a look at is there an egress plan for something that's been going on unconstitutionally for so long. So that's how I do it. Is just that's how I've lived my life. They can like all day long, like no, yeah, and then let's try and figure out where we can constitutionally make it. And I hate to say like make it work, because that's the problem we get into, is then we try and twist it into our view. The question earlier, this judicial review nonsense that we have going on. That's a horrible idea, and we've allowed it to happen. So how do we take it back? Send people up there that understand and have read the Constitution. And again, and I would encourage all of you all and anybody that sees this to go that interview that he had with Matt Murphy this week. And you can, I played a portion of it on a video that I did, and he can't even point to the Constitution. At least be able, if you're going to twist and vote yes on this stuff, hey, it's Article 1, Section 8. That's where it lists out where the authority comes from to, contractually between we the people, the citizens, and the states to do these things, and some of the, so look, know the Constitution and be able to say this is where it is. And if you're trying to shoehorn it in there or twist it and make it fit, and you're looking to the Supreme Court as like, hey, they said you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. So that's thank you. So that's how I do it. I live my life how I've been living it, on those values of not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. That's right. Yep.
You do, you boo.
So that being said, we're at right up on time. Again, I would like to thank all of you for coming out. We'll take a couple minutes for Monty to get his. I know he heard those both questions, so he's got a leg up on it. Uh,
That's why he wanted you to go first.
That's right. No, but and Monty, I would like to say thank you to you also for making the trip to this town hall. And again, we'll take a couple minute break here, 5 or so. I think we're actually set to go at 2:15. So let's look to set that up. So everyone take a break, grab some water, and thank you again. And then also after Monty gets done, we're set to go till 4. So if you have other questions, we can do that. Thank you.
We will be back shortly. We're going to pause the mic just for a little bit, but we'll keep the feed going. And when we come back, we're going to have Monty Fritts come on the show with us. So stick around. You stay right there. You're on, Brian.
Good afternoon, all my friends in the Warren County area. This is your old pal Santa C from Tennessee, and I'm here to tell you that I'm here at the detention. And let me tell you, the detention cards make great stocking stuffers. So come see our friends at the detention. Now, another bit of business. This Thursday, November 20th, Santa will be here at the detention for our famous first annual Ben Nixon chili cook-off. And boy, Santa loves the chili. You better ask Rudolph. So Santa is so excited to be here. They're going to be a prize $250 for the first place winner, and Santa hopes that it's him. No, Santa can't be eligible, but that's okay. Now, don't put any reindeer in your chili, okay, boys and girls? But anyhow, Santa is so excited because we have some special speakers. We're going to have gubernatorial candidate, Mr. Monty Fritts, who will be here speaking. Also, our newly appointed DA, Mr. Matt Culver, will be here too. And there will be many others. So we're so excited to be here. That will be this Thursday night at 6 o'clock. Come on down. And if you want to sign up for the chili contest, you have till tomorrow to contact Lanisa Bell at the Republican Party to get your chili entry in. But still, come on out. It's $10 for all you can eat chili. Now, who can eat that much chili on a Thursday night? Ho, ho, ho! Santa can! All right, boys and girls. Hope to see you Thursday night at 6 o'clock at the detention. And Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! Santa out!
So I just want to announce real quick on this Thursday night at 6 o'clock in this room, the Warren County Republican Party is going to host their inaugural Ben Nixon Chili Cook-Off. So Mr. Ben Nixon was chair of the Republican Party 3 chairs ago before me, and really was the catalyst behind getting Republicans elected in Warren County. He has since passed away, and we want to honor him, honor his memory with this chili cook-off. So entries are due by November 16th, that's Monday, and you can enter your chili or express interest to enter on Facebook, or you can text me, you can tell me today, or you can email me, lanisa.bell@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to take those entries. We have 3 place winners. First place, $250 and a patriotic gift basket. Second place, $100 and a patriotic gift basket. Third place, $50 and a patriotic gift basket. Okay, and with that said, we are going to have speakers here who are actually here today. So Tom Davis will be speaking. Our keynote speaker that evening is gubernatorial candidate Monty Fritts. And yes, he's our keynote for the night. Yes, clap, clap. And we will also have our interim DA, Mr. Matt Culver, speaking and addressing. So it's for everybody, $10 a head. Come in, all the chili you can eat. The party's providing desserts and drinks. And we would love to see everybody out. Bring the kids. Santa's going to be here. So it's your chance to see the big guy. So if you've got any questions, you can see me. You can see our event on Facebook. It's pinned to the top of the page. And I will be around to talk to anybody if you're interested. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's get these ready. Good friend of mine. I'd do anything for him. Well, welcome back to Warren First 931 and everybody here at the detention. Again, thanks to Bernadette and Dwayne for letting us have here. And also shout out to Santa. He was just here a minute ago. Ho, ho, ho. He is a busy man for sure. But I'm gonna do something really different right quick. I know I've been asking all the questions. We're gonna actually have Kenny Moffitt start the questions for you, Mr. Frist, if that's okay. Oh, okay. Well, my name's Kelly. How are you? All right. So Kenny Moffitt, here you go.
All right. So it took me just a minute to write this down. And First responders are really near and dear to my heart. And so first, our mental health is suffering across Tennessee. This year, the Tennessee Supreme Court reinstated the denial of disability benefits for a 15-year veteran firefighter in Chattanooga, Tennessee, suffering from PTSD. They stated there's little evidence that the events causing the PTSD were unexpected and significant evidence that the events were expected. So first responders are expected to endure this type of trauma. Tennessee currently has the Dust and Samples Act, Tennessee Code 551-206, which says PTSD can be a work-related injury under many circumstances, but limits the time from incident to diagnosis to a year.
Do you remember what year we passed that?
It
When
was
did,
last year.
2 years
Last
ago?
year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe his claim was from 2020. It says, how would you work to ensure all first responders, police, fire, EMS, even dispatchers are covered for their mental health care if signs and symptoms and even time to diagnosis is greater than a year?
I appreciate the question. You know, I'm going to touch on the root of that first word. I try to answer it. I think the reason that you have some of these judges on the bench and politicians, they don't understand PTSD because they've never done anything in their minds that causes it. They can't understand what that firefighter, that EMT has to see when they pull up to a car wreck, and they see things that God didn't create our eyes to have to lay upon them. I think the biggest thing that your governor can do for you in that role is be an advocate for you, to be vocal. I think just like the president has a bully pulpit, the governor has a bully pulpit as well. And I think that's the biggest thing the governor of the state of Tennessee can constitutionally do to help that. We passed that dust and samples thing I think it was 2 years ago. And one of my biggest concerns, and it goes past just emergency services, I'll tell you, I often with my district attorneys, things that they have to look at and my public defenders have to see to be able to prosecute or defend a case. God did not design our eyes to look at them. And it is traumatic. And I think somehow people sometimes think that PTSD only comes from combat veterans, but work a couple car wrecks, help somebody in a really bad automobile accident or some domestic violence thing, and you get a different view of it. So I think being an advocate and an open, vocal advocate, I think that's something we're missing right now in the state of Tennessee, is somebody who acts like a leader. I intend to act like a leader.
And going right into this, how is the Pray for Tennessee movement going? What do you intend to do to help further that? And how do you plan to bring God back into our Tennessee government? And what can we do? Oh, that's a four-parter question. Whoever gave you that one.
Hey, I appreciate that question, Rob. Thank you. I know where that would come from. The Pray for Tennessee thing has been, we've led the nation with that, I think. We went back, tried to go back to our roots in the Republic, where that when we realized that we're facing something insurmountable, that we didn't take a secular humanist role and approach to trying to solve it. We've allowed that to happen in Tennessee and in America now, so that we think we can just enact more laws or spend more of your money and solve problems. And we have built towers of Babel all across our state and our country, and they're failing us. I wrote that prayer resolution much out of frustration after a meeting with Governor Lee and many of the folks that are in leadership in the Tennessee General Assembly that just didn't really want to address some of the problems we had. 9,000 children that are in state custody. All of us know somebody who has at least overdosed, or a family member perhaps even that's passed away from an overdose. It's a horrible thing. Violence, criminal violence in our streets, where we have kids not just in Memphis, but in Nashville and in Knoxville that will just do murderously horrible things. And we need a move of God in Tennessee. We need a move of God in America. I'm a little concerned that we're so close to the edge of the precipice of a great fall that it's urgent. I think that question, I know my friend that asked it, he realizes it's an urgent thing, because what he does, he sees that. And so I think no more Office of Faith-based initiatives in Nashville, Tennessee, because I think that's just code word for polytheism. We live in a Christian-based nation. Our founders understood Almighty God and who He was and the position that we're supposed to have before Him. We have forgotten that today, and we use little soft code words now to kind of imply that we're men of faith. I am not that. I'm a man of Jesus. And I know that sounds too churchy to some people. I really don't care. Article 1, Section 3 of the Tennessee Constitution is very clear that all men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God within the dictates of their conscience. And that's capital A, capital G. That is the God of the Bible. And so we have turned our backs on Him. We've allowed apostate things to come in and not challenge them. We've allowed 9 people in black robes in D.C. to decide that it's okay for a man to marry a man. That is not marriage. God defines marriage. We need leaders in Nashville. We have too many weak men in Nashville that are afraid to offend somebody. I'm not intending to offend any of y'all. And I'm not intending to offend anybody that might watch this. But the fact of the matter is, if we speak the truth and it offends somebody, it's probably going to be good for them. We just went through this whole thing with our little cross up at exit 352 on I-40 in Kingston, my hometown, where the Department of Transportation was going to come in and mow this cross down. They weren't mowing the medians. Y'all hadn't heard about this maybe. And so they weren't mowing the medians, and the city of Kingston started mowing them, and they cut crosses into the grass, just as a tribute to our Christian heritage, right? And some atheists complained. And just as Tom said earlier, I'm not going to hit you in the head with a Bible and tell you have to worship Jesus Christ. You live under a period of liberty and grace now. There is coming a day when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. You can write that down. But under this time, we live in a period of what I would call liberty that God has given us. That 2 Corinthians 3:17, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And so we get to decide where we're going to do the right thing and share the reward, or we're going to do the wrong thing and share the consequences of it. And the ultimate question on liberty is whether or not you accept Christ as Lord and Savior. It's just that simple. And so we have to be able to take a stand on that. That's going to offend a few people, right? But I would much rather offend you than see you roast forever in hell. And that is the consequence of rejecting Jesus Christ. So with that, we have a dear couple that Barbie and Terry Franklin took up this website that we did for Pray for Tennessee in 2024. We did a website, no cost to the state, and they took it up in 2025. They've done much better with it. Pray for TN, the number 4, pray410.us, and give them a shout out and tell them how much you love them and thank them for doing this. It is now, July is a month of prayer and fasting every July in the state of Tennessee, seeking God's hand of blessing. We need that. I can tell you, those that serve in some kind of public service here see it. Those that are first responders and EMTs, they see it. Back to the brother's first question. We need a move of God in Tennessee. We need it badly. We're in a desperate position. And I intend to evoke the name of Jesus as much as I possibly can, lift his name high, and call myself first and you all to repent before him that he might bless this land.
All right. Will you be against mandates? Example, again, vaccines.
Yes, unconstitutional and immoral. God gives us our body. Government has no right to do that. Shame on the people in Nashville, in the local governments, and at the federal government that call for those mandates. Shame on them. I know Tom and I are both veterans. I'm sure we have other veterans in the room. We had military careers ended because of unlawful orders that were given requiring people to take the COVID jab, or in my generation, anthrax vaccinations done the same way. We passed a resolution 2 years ago, last year. It all runs together. House Joint Resolution 98 that called for the VA to take care of those people who were harmed physically as a result of that, and to do an investigation into the command structure that made those unlawful orders. The unfortunate side, we sent that to our whole Tennessee delegation, our whole Tennessee contingent of senators and U.S. reps, and so far none of them have done anything. Shame on them for that. We got to stand up for our veterans, and it's up to the soldier goes, right? Whether it's an officer, an enlisted man or woman, the soldier goes. But it is required of the politician to stand up that we stop sending these soldiers all over the world, exposing them to not only the risk of combat, but these chemical intrusions into the body here at home. Here at home, and for us civilians, how dare any government official assume that they can tell you that you have to take this pill or inject this thing into your body? They do not have that. That is can I get preachy here? Is it okay to get preachy down in this part of Tennessee? Let me tell you, that is a spirit of Jezebel. It is a spirit of Jezebel because Jezebel had no authority given her. She usurped authority back in the days of King Ahab. And so when you have government or any member of government, whether it's your governor, your state rep, your county exec, or whatever, they get outside the boundaries of that Constitution, they have just entered into Jezebelian territory. And we should rebuke them for that. And we should call them to repentance. And there is no acceptance. Last thing I'll say on that, I really respect the guy that's the Surgeon General down in Florida. We don't have that. We have a Commissioner of Health in Tennessee. We'll have a new Commissioner of Health. But we can learn a lot from him because he's talking about not forcing the vaccinations on our children to go to schools. Government, we have allowed government to get to the point where they think they can tell you exactly what your kid's going to learn, the smutty books they see in school, inject things into their bodies, and they think they have that right. It is time to recalibrate Nashville, Tennessee, that it is we the people that get to decide.
What is your position on Tennessee farmers growing THC and hemp?
So I'm a liberty-minded person, and I am good with. I think we did some horrible things at the federal level, apparently, to get the government open back up on the hemp. Hemp is a product. The THC, the gummies, and all that. I have some problems with condoning that which is harmful. Now, when I talk about this, oftentimes people say, "What about the alcohol?" I got to tell you, you're at liberty to drink at home. You're at liberty to use that THC at home. But if you get out and put my family at risk, then shame on you. We ought not just throw the book at you, we ought to throw the brick at you as well. And I think there's two schools. Chase and I have talked about this some before. I think there's two schools, and I'm not being disrespectful to anybody, I'm just being straightforward. There are two lobbies that are pushing on the THC thing that scare me today. And one of them is the pharmaceutical lobby. They have already proven that they are, many of them, many, not all, many of them are immoral people, that they will do anything to you for money. We've seen that with the Oxy. We see that in the legislation that they try to offer money to get people to vote for. I would also offer that Colorado pothead lobby's just as bad, because they don't care if you walk around stoned out of your mind for the rest of your life, so long as they can make money on it. And both are evil. And is there a way that you can exercise liberty and God-given liberty and a plant that God has given? I think so. But we have to really be careful of those two lobby groups. And I'll throw one other one in, and I'm here close to the mecca of that, so I'll better be careful getting home. But the liquor lobby in Tennessee is a destructive thing. It is a destructive thing because they push these politicians to approve and condone things that are detrimental to the good of the average Tennessean. And so I'm busting on the lobby just a little bit and the lobbyist just to get you to this point. One of the most dangerous things, I think, in our constitutional republic is the fact that we have paid lobbyists and stupid politicians. And that is a bad combination, because the stupid politician thinks that they have to take the money and the advice of every lobbyist, sister. And we need to stop that. Again, we need to elect more strong men and stop electing these weaklings.
What will replace the revenue if we get rid of grocery tax? You like that one?
I do, because I want to get rid of the state grocery sales tax. I don't think we need to replace that revenue necessarily, because so the Democrats will try to do that, right? There's one of my Democrat colleagues offered something last year, and it moved the tax from groceries onto something else. Well, you still pay it, right? Because people pay taxes, not companies and corporations. It always is going to flow back to what you buy and consume at the end of the day. So what I'm trying to do is just remove that 4% part of the state grocery sales tax, just remove it. The bill that I ran 2 years ago had a $147 million fiscal note, meaning that was going to lower the revenue in the state of Tennessee by $147 million. First, I would offer that our budget's grown by 59% in the last 6 years. It's gone from $37.5 billion to $59.5 billion. I voted against it, but we voted in a $59.8 billion budget this past year. When you do the math, if you divide that $147 million by $59.8 billion, it gives you a little bitty number. And I won't do that math in public, but just trust me, it's a little bitty number. I don't think we have to replace it. I think what we have to do is stop spending our tax dollars on corporate welfare. I'm all for a tax break on companies in some cases, like if we can help produce things, if everybody's going to benefit from it, right? Because it does flow down. But the very best tax breaks we can do is one that gets everybody. So if we did income levels in this room and we started at 20,000 and went up to 100,000, there'd be people in every demographic raise their hand. The grocery and the sales tax is something that benefits everybody equally, because when you purchase on it. Some of my colleagues get mad at me about this because they say, well, Monty, we haven't raised taxes. Well, they're not thinking through it well. Let me tell you what has happened. Because we had Biden inflation hit our nation so hard, and if a loaf of bread went from $2 to $4, I think I've seen that in the last few years, then that 4% tax that the state collects on it was doubled. It was still 4%, but it was on twice as much. So we have increased how much we're taxing. So the only persons that ever benefit from inflation, you all know who that is, don't you? It's the government, because revenue goes up, because the price of everything goes up, and those taxes go up. So I don't think we have to replace it. I think we have to stop spending so much of your money. I think you need to keep more of your money in your pocket. You need to keep more money in your county, here in Warren County, and me in Rome County, and stop sending it to Nashville, D.C.
And this is a question that was to both you guys. What is your message to the Gen Zers?
I'm sorry. Really, I'll start with that, because I find myself speaking lots of these to young people, and they look at me and you can see they're saying, your generation has so let me down. We have gotten that Gen Z group in debt. You know, if the Lord gives me a good long life, I may have 20 years left in me, maybe 10 good ones, right? And these young people have 50 years of life ahead of them. The answer is not a 50-year mortgage. I agree with Tim. That's crazy. That's stupid. Because that's going to get into private property rights. I don't know if they're thinking through that well in what they're offering. But it would be, I'm sorry, because we have allowed not only our state budget, again, I voted against this budget, but about half of these slack-jawed politicians are going to tell you that everything's fine in Tennessee. And they're going to say that, whoa, it's much better in Tennessee than it is in California, New York, and Nevada. I would agree. I think this is the sweetest soil in the whole wide world, right? But it doesn't mean that we're meeting the standard. And so we've become accustomed to sending lots of money under a balanced budget. Our budget is balanced in Tennessee, but we're sending that money in. So we owe that Gen Z an apology there that we're taking so much money out of their pocket. Secondly, the federal government, those people that have been a part of this $38 trillion debt, they owe a significant apology. As a matter of fact, they ought to just all step down, the ones that have had a part of it. Because they have put us in a position where my children, and they're 39, 40 years old, and my grandchildren are going to have a hard time. They will never be out from under that debt, and we've so devalued the dollar. The last thing I'd say that we owe those Gen Zers an apology for, and I don't mean to sound ugly. I'm really a nice guy. Ask my grandkids. But these weak people that we've sent to Nashville and D.C., they have decided it's okay to infringe upon your rights and your rights and your rights and your rights. And we have allowed them, our generation has allowed them to get out of control. It's time we yank that rope and get them back under control.
All right, this is a long one. Earlier this year, the legislative passed HB 533, the Fertility Treatment and the Contraceptive Protection Act. It was introduced by Senator Becky Duncan Macy and Rep. Iris Reuter and was quickly signed into law by Governor Lee despite objections by pro-life and the abolitionist group. As governor, what would you do to reverse the law?
Thank you so much for that question. That is a question of life. We took a step backwards with life this year in Tennessee with that 533 bill. I was on the House floor when it was argued. I was on the House floor with my hand up when they shut the conversation down because people like Jody Barrett were asking tough questions that they didn't want to ask, and leadership pushed it through. Just so you know, there were 37 of us Republicans. There were 75 Republicans in the State House. 37 voted no on that bill because we had serious concerns about it. My most serious concerns originally about that bill were the fact that it guaranteed access to contraception. First and foremost, my friends, it is not your taxpayer responsibility to provide condoms for the public. Second, it is an absolutely morally apostate thing that we would guarantee the right to morning after pills. Morning after pills do two things. They prevent, I'm told, I'm not a doctor, but based on what the science says about them and what doctors have told me, they prevent ovulation and they prevent implantation. And since we'll have some children in the room, I'm going to be careful with that. But if you prevent implantation, that is something that would take place after fertilization. Raise your hand if you think life begins at fertilization. So then if we believe that, what we've just said is that morning after pill could cause the death of a human being. Shame on us in Tennessee. Shame on Iris Rudder and shame on Becky Massey, women that carried that bill. And they were probably convinced by evil people in the lobby that want to sell those medications, right, to be able to get it out. But shame on them for doing that. We should be calling for their repentance. I'll do it. I'll call for you women to repent. I'll call for you 30 Republicans that voted for it to repent. I will call for you, Cameron Sexton, who had the opportunity. I sat in your office and asked you to reconsider that vote. You need to repent before a holy God. You have brought judgment on the state of Tennessee. I will tell to Bill Lee, you should repent before a holy God because Jody and I wrote the letter that Chris Todd sent you asking you to please veto that because it was detrimental to life. You should repent, Bill Lee. You signed it into law late at night. So as governor, I'll do everything I can to turn that around. I promise you I would have vetoed it, and I will stand on the steps and tell you that I am an abolitionist. We should not murder babies.
All right, this one. After paying a mortgage for 30 years, and I apologize, with my home not mine, because of taxes, my property can be taken away for back taxes.
That's a great question. Somebody must have read my mind. So we have a bill coming this year. Property taxes have gotten out of hand, I think, in the state of Tennessee, in two respects, and we're trying to address them with a bill this year. We've been working on it for probably 6-7 months. The first part of that bill would stop what I call the taxation against unrealized capital gains. So right now we assess your property. If someone bought a house 5 years ago and they paid $150,000 for it, it may be appraised at $300,000. Now, I don't think taxation against unrealized capital gains is a fair thing. So this bill would fix if we can get it passed, I think most people are going to love it. Most folks are going to love it. The politicians will hate it. At every level, they'll hate it. But we need to fix that property value at the 2020 rate, or what you've paid for it since then, because I think that's what your property's worth. It's what you're willing to pay for it. And secondly, it would prevent a U.S. citizen, and the lawyers are arguing with me a little bit about this, but it would prevent a U.S. citizen from being evicted from their home by the government for delinquency in taxes.
Would you support an increase of lanes on the major interstates like I-40, I-24, I-75, and I-81?
Maybe in some cases, and let me tell you why I say that. I think that certainly traffic's horrible. If you're in Knoxville or Nashville, you understand how bad it is. And part of that is because we've been using your tax dollars. Governor Lee did that just again last week. He made the offer to the folks who had just elected a communist in New York City that he would help them with ECD to move the businesses down here. That was an offer of your money to go to a New York business to move in rather than take care of Tennessee businesses. Shameful way to do business. But I think he fully exposed himself when he sat with the World Economic Forum a couple of days later as to really where he sat. So shouldn't surprise us. That Nashville establishment all thinks that way. So we've pulled lots of people here. I think the draw into Tennessee ought to be liberty and less government. We shouldn't be incentivizing to come people in. I have people come in. I think that lots of infrastructure, I think the first infrastructure that's going to bite us first is going to be the ability to generate electricity. And TVA has failed us there. TVA's failed us in many ways there. Broken DC policies have failed us because they oscillate between we can't burn coal, we can burn coal. We can't burn coal, we can burn coal. And we buy about 1 out of 4 kilowatts from somewhere else on the economy. That should never be the case. So I think electrical infrastructure is important. Water and potable water and sewage are big things that, again, if we weren't providing corporate welfare, perhaps we could be making investments in those infrastructures. To the roads, I think that the first responsibility I have as governor will be to inspect the contracts that we have with folks in building the roads. I'm not sure we've managed those well. We all paid an increase in tax, which a gas tax was 6 years ago, I think, if I'm doing the math correctly. I hadn't seen that improvement in our roads. I think that we need to look at that. The reason I'm a maybe on the roads is because of this. There are few places that we could expand without a choke point to just from 4 to 6 lanes, without rebuilding other bridges and stuff that go across. This becomes a very expensive proposition. Am I willing to take more of your tax dollars to do that? The answer is no. Because I think that we have gotten ourselves in this position and we cannot be increasing taxes to build roads. I hear some of my colleagues talk about we're going to make everything a 4-lane. Well, I'm not sure if they plan on shaking the money tree harder or reaching into my pocket to do that, but it's going to take one of the two to do that. I also would offer that there's within those sections of road where you're not going to have an eminent domain issue and take private property and you don't have restrictions that are going to be probably in the hundreds of millions to replace bridges, there might be opportunities to expand the roadways. But I think we have to consider private property rights, and it's more than just adding a third lane in most cases. Sometimes it's bridges and other infrastructure that has to be moved. Last thing I'll say on that, there is the way we currently have TDOT set up and under the law, if you have to move the infrastructure that goes along the interstate, some of that falls back on the local governments to do that. So we have to be really careful in making a commitment of, I'm going to double all these roads. That's why I'm reluctant to say yes.
Do you consider yourself a Christian? Which I think we already probably can answer that one. How long have you been a Christian, and would you share your testimony?
Absolutely. I am a born-again believer. About age 8 in First Baptist Church in Rockwood, Tennessee, I came to be a Christian. I am thankful that God is a covenant keeper. I get the privilege now, Denise and I, my wife of almost 42 years, we get a chance to attend church at First Baptist Rockwood, where I was saved as a little boy. And after work life and everything, and I kind of retired, we get to go back there. I think every day I realize more just what he saved me from. I think as I get older, I much more realize what the penalty of sin is. You know, Scripture tells us the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. And I think that as I look at life and how I've missed the mark in life, even after becoming a Christian many times, I'm thankful I've missed that mark many times. I think that I find myself more in awe of His grace and the fact that God would send His only begotten Son to hang on a cross and take nails that I deserve so that I might be saved. I don't know how you define love otherwise than what Jesus did for us. And so I'm happy to be a Christian. I'm thankful to Him.
And of course, the question right after that is, do you have a criminal record? If so, what for and how long ago? What happened?
I don't have any criminal record. I have, well, yeah, I guess I'm kind of a little, I don't know. God's been good to me. I don't have a criminal record.
Oh, well, there you go. Clean record right there. Senior citizen work their whole life. This is another both question you've heard before. They work their whole life and pay off their home, and Social Security don't cover much anymore. Can we do no property taxes for those people?
There's already a provision for veterans in Tennessee law. I think under the Constitution, there is an authority for the local governments to be able to assess property taxes to raise revenue. I'd certainly be in favor of some point in time that we stop collecting taxes. My first step, or property taxes on seniors. My first step is to get us back to something in what I would consider correct and equilibrium that in the bill that we're running now, just so that you don't have continuously increasing values. You think of that older person that the question is written for, they may have bought their house 35 years ago for $40,000, and now it's appraised at $500,000. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I think it would probably take some constitutional amendment to be able to differentiate just for the elderly, because we're supposed to constitutionally treat everybody the same, right? And so that becomes something that would require a little bit of work in the Constitution, I think, to get us there.
Now, if elected, how will you support the Tennessee walking horse industry?
So I went to my first walking horse thing down Shelbyville a little bit ago. It's a beautiful thing to do, beautiful thing to be there. Got a chance to see the horses. The animals are tremendous. I think advocating for what we in Tennessee have, because that's kind of the home of it, right? Shelbyville is, I guess. And the advocating for that uniqueness of the Tennessee walking horse, I think, is a tremendous thing. It is a tradition thing. The Tennessee walking horse is a great tradition thing. I noticed the crowd, and it was raining the night I was there, and the crowd was down a little bit according to some of the folks I talked to. But there was a time when that was a tremendous thing. And it's a whole operation. The young man that manages that walked me through it. I think that becomes a Department of Tourism thing that I don't know that we're advocating well enough outside the state of Tennessee. I can't point to it. Or maybe even locally. That's right. And especially with the influx of people that we have moving here, I think a lot of people will come into Nashville or East Tennessee or whatever and may not realize the heritage of the walking horse here in Middle Tennessee. And I think that's probably something we could emphasize. I have this idea that lots of us still travel by car. Most of the elites, they fly. They tell us we need to drive electric cars, but they fly in airplanes. But most of us, yeah. Well, we're flying a small car today, but if we fly the F-250 or we fly the little RAV4 or whatever we happen to be driving that day, I think there's something that we're missing in Tennessee with our rest areas. Because I think that, lots of people, us average folk, use rest areas, right? Or you go to Buc-ee's. Yeah. And Buc-ee's aren't everywhere. I think that we're probably missing an advantage with our rest areas in Tennessee to just kind of point toward what is the local thing and maybe redirect people, because lots of folks that are on up in years, maybe like me, they may be aimlessly wandering rather than just going to that direct place. And I think there's an opportunity to help advocate for things like the walking horse, like the legacy of Casey Jones around Jackson. I think all across Tennessee, there's probably an opportunity for that.
And on that, we have all local places have places like called the Chamber of Commerce, and they have their city hall. Maybe teaming up somehow with, like you're saying, the rest areas. I remember as a little girl, we would go in there and there'd be tons of brochures and people greeting you with a smile. Or like, is it Florida where you get the orange, and then when you go to Georgia, they had the peaches, that they would always give you that one free something. And I thought that was the neatest thing as a child. So yeah, totally. What is your position on the Second Amendment and repealing the unconstitutional gun laws and true constitutional carry?
So to be an American, you have to be a supporter of the Second Amendment. You have to be a supporter of the First Amendment. Our Tennessee Republican Party guiding principles are very clear. There's 18 items on it. If you haven't looked at them, they're very clear. They say that at the very top, our rights come from God. And so we have unfortunately hit a point in Tennessee where the Nashville establishment, many politicians around the state, think that they get to assign you your rights. That is, again, I'll use that word again, it's a constitutionally apostate thought. It's morally apostate. If that politician thinks that they get to decide what your rights are rather than God giving them, they have replaced God. They have assumed a position of deity. It is an idolatrous thing to do that. I know that sounds hard, but you really have to think about this. Our founders said we have been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So the first and foremost job of any elected official is to secure your rights, not to make up new boundaries for you. And so I have one of my colleagues, he happens to be the deputy speaker. It was reported, and I love him to death, but he either just told a lie or he doesn't know what he's talking about. In a recent thing where he said we had constitutional carry in the state of Tennessee. Let me tell you, friends, you do not have constitutional carry in the state of Tennessee. We Americans, we Tennesseans we believe that you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Raise your hand if you believe that. That's a concept of being an American. When Tennessee gun law, because of this intent to go armed language, primarily because of the intent to go armed language and weak men that we've elected for so much time here in Tennessee, if you have a firearm on you, you are committing a criminal offense, and you have to have a defense in law to prevent that from being a crime. Did you all know that? It is upside down in Tennessee. It is actually inverse. We think as Americans in Tennessee, innocent until proven guilty. Gun law in Tennessee right now, today, at this moment, is you're guilty unless you can provide a defense to make you innocent. That's wrong. That's immoral. It's idolatrous. And so we had a West Tennessee group of people file a lawsuit and sue Governor Lee, and Jeff Long was the Commissioner of Safety and the Attorney General, and they sued over that intent to go armed language. Who's familiar with that? Raise your hand. Who's familiar with that lawsuit? A few. Well, let me talk about that just a minute. It's worthwhile. And so they filed that intent to go armed is unconstitutional. So a 3-judge panel, Chancery Court panel, West Tennessee District, heard that case, and they said, you're right, it is unconstitutional. I think we should have celebrated that, right? Because that was 154-year-old Jim Crow era law. So it was put in place, we think, so that the racist of that day could say to the black man, you can't carry a shotgun or a rifle, right? And it become an infringement. Shall not be infringed. Remember, that's very important. It become an infringement upon liberty. So today, the elitist class that think they're God and we're their peasants, they think that I know that sounds hard to y'all, but I'm telling you, that's the thought process that you have in Nashville, Tennessee today. I see it every day. They work against your rights in many cases. And so rather than accept it and call us into a special session to change that language or stop enforcing it, which was an option until we get into session in January to take that language out, the governor and the attorney general decided to appeal that decision. What that means is they say, we don't agree with the court. We're going to appeal it and extend that law that makes you a criminal in this state unless you can prove otherwise, and extend Jim Crow law in the state of Tennessee. How many of y'all find that morally reprehensible that we would have government leaders do that? I do. So we've said that to them. We've stayed on them pretty hard about that kind of stuff, and we'll continue to stay on them about that. We have a bill this year that would correct that intent to go armed and take it out. I had that bill last year. The governor's people fight that kind of legislation pretty hard. So what does constitutional carry mean? So lots of, again, my colleagues will say we have it. And some of them will say we want it, other candidates will, and they'll fail to define it. Here's what constitutional carry means. It means that you have the right to keep and bear arms, and that they shall not be infringed. And that does not limit University of Tennessee, Knoxville, that they give up their right to self-defense. So when a young lady may go to college, she can't defend herself because she's not allowed to possess a firearm on college campus. Campus carry is part of constitutional carry. And it must be. It must be. One last thing, I go way down the list on that and here's why I get so fired up about the Second Amendment. It is the great litmus test. It is the sole best leading indicator of what a politician thinks about your rights. If they think that they can prevent you from having a 10-round or a 12-round magazine, or that you can't carry in these silly gun-free zones, because it's not constitutional carry when state buildings in Nashville, Tennessee have a little Ghostbuster sign with a Glock, or not a Glock, a Beretta 92F in it, because that's typically what they have on those. We have to get rid of that to have constitutional carry, and you have my commitment to do that. I think I can do that on the state buildings by executive order, is to have those silly signs pulled down. As a matter of fact, we might ought to replace them with a sign that says, be careful, bad guy. Because now the state of Tennessee is offering an advantage to its employees, Chase, that we're going to train you how to be more proficient with that firearm you choose to carry. Because I think that's an important thing. And I think that is the right thing to do. One last thing. Again, this one fires me up. I hear these career politicians talk about making Memphis safer, making Nashville safer, and all that. And there's lots of things that we could do in those regards. But as long as your politicians are trying to influence you not to arm yourselves, we will always be less safe. Criminal predators are like coyotes. They seek the weak. And if they can find a place where there's a big sign up that says nobody in here is armed and all the decent, honest people have disarmed themselves, where are they going to hit you? We got to fix that in Tennessee.
Are you going to work? Are you going to work to get all the illegals out of the U.S.?
No, I'm going to just worry about Tennessee first because, and we've done that. We've demonstrated that. You know, the Bible tells us, show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith with my works. And so we have passed, I have sponsored and passed legislation to make it less favorable for the illegal to come here and reside. And we started, one of those was House Bill 872 that says that if you're illegally in these United States and you commit a violent crime, you can suffer life in prison in a Tennessee penitentiary. That if you're illegally in these United States and you come to Tennessee and you commit any crime and you display a weapon, life in prison with no parole. If you're legally in Tennessee and you commit a crime and you go to make bail, the judge can now consider your residency status as to whether he or she grants the bail. Those are first-time things. I don't want to pay $45,000 a year to incarcerate people who are not supposed to be in this nation. I just don't want them to come here to do bad things. We had a bill last year that we tried to pass because we Tennessee citizens should not be educating foreign citizens, nor their children. Those little boys and little girls are created in God's image just like my grandkids are. But it is not your responsibility to pay for their education. The weak-minded, feeble-minded people that have assumed that we can do that are just trying to break us. It is an existential threat, the illegal alien issue that we have right now. It is existentially a threat because it is electorally a threat. Because even if we have the very best elections in the world in Tennessee, with 21 million or more, perhaps, or less, perhaps, illegals in this country, if they're counted in the census, guess where those congressional districts go? It is going to ruin the United States in the voting balance. We are allowing our nation to be colonized before our very eyes. We have an Ilhan Omar in the U.S. Congress because weak men in D.C., and ladies, I'm not excluding the failures that our elected women have made, but it is the man's responsibility to lead, and we have failed to lead. So we have an Ilhan Omar because we colonized around Minneapolis. And we put so many Somalis there that they voted one of their own kind, a person who doesn't have a first allegiance to the United States of America. If our congressman had any guts, they would be kicking her out. She shouldn't be there. Let me just go ahead and go one more step further on that. If you can't, our Tennessee Constitution says that you have to affirm the belief to hold office in an end state of heaven or hell, right? And that you can't deny the existence of creator being. You know our Tennessee Constitution says that. And yet we put folks in that have some idolatrous worldview. They can't hold office in Tennessee. And I know when I say that, people think, oh, we don't do religious tests. Brothers and sisters, I'm not talking to you about a religious test. I'm talking to you about a worldview that is so contrary to the one that most of you all grew up on that you can't even comprehend it. And it is destructive, and we've got to stop allowing that. And so H-1B visas, Tom talked about that. I find myself on college campuses some now talking to young people. You know what one of their top issues is? Get the illegals out of it. Get the illegals out of the United States and out of our college classrooms. I heard this this past week, in that we have a high number of foreign nationals that are coming to the University of Tennessee, and we're teaching them our very best of how we educate in physics and engineering. Shouldn't we be focusing on Tennessee citizens folks? So, to answer your question, we've got to clean up our house in Tennessee. We've not done well with that. One other bill that we offered 2 years ago when Biden was still illegitimately in the White House, and the governor of Texas was trying to repel the invasion of people, right? We passed legislation and put money behind it to allow the governor of the state of Tennessee to send a brigade-sized force to Texas to help the Texas governor repel the invasion. Guess how many we sent under that Title 32 authority? 0. It passed into law. You can go look it up, House Bill 2190. You'll see that was my bill. So I think we've probably taken on, we get called lots of names. I get called lots of names because I take those things on. I'll tell you what name I want to be called. I want to be called a Tennessean. I want to be called an American, and I want to stand on just those values. And if someone wants to come here, just like most of our ancestors, I'm assuming did, let them assimilate to our culture. But until that time, we should stop every bit of the immigration into these United States. We've hit a super saturation point. And until we allow some time and some deportation, we're going to lose our country if we're not careful.
Are we still doing good on time? 5 more minutes? Okay, we'll try to get, there's so much more to do, but I'll try to get the ones people wrote for you specifically. TDEC and TDOT are a very powerful and often fight with of the will of the people. If you succeed in becoming governor, do you foresee replacing top level bureaucrats, I guess is what they're saying?
Answer is yes, quick answer. I'll give you a quicker answer on this one. Number one priority for me as your next governor is to get the budget growth under control. Overtaxation is the first and most effective form of bondage, and you're being put into bondage right now with overtaxation in Tennessee. We're going to fix that. Secondly, we're going to fix that by you keep more money in your pocket and do it in a smart way so we don't break the bank in doing it. Second thing is we've got to recalibrate Nashville, Tennessee. And so those people who are commissioners or mid-senior level and up, we have lots of great Tennessee employees, I think. I used to be one. I guess I kind of am one now, but I used to be one. We have lots of people show up every day to do the right thing as a Tennessee state employee. But we have lots of people that in that Nashville establishment crowd, they do not think they work for you, friends. And it's not just TDOT and TDEC. It's the Department of Safety. It's DCS. Let me go on down the list. And they want to centralize all authority to Nashville, Tennessee to put us in a position so they can put their thumb on you. And so some of those people won't have an opportunity to work for you under the Fritts administration. And the ones that do want to continue their employment are going to get the opportunity to take a test on the Tennessee and U.S. Constitution. And if they can't pass those tests, they're not going to have those jobs. And one other thing, some of those people that work against your rights today, they lobby, TDEC folks lobby, safety folks lobby. TDEC lobbies against private property rights and, wetlands and all these kinds of things. And they want to have more authority over you. The Department of Safety does not want you to be armed. The current leadership in the Department of Safety does not want you to be armed. I'm not talking about your average state trooper. I'm talking about at the higher levels. They do not. They're anti-gun people. And so they slither down the hallways of the Cordell Hull building, and they cut deals with those politicians, the feeble-minded ones, and they get them to vote the wrong way on things. We're not going to have any legislative liaisons under Fritts as governor. I'm going to move those folks to a governor's office helpline so that when you call, you may have to leave a message, but you're going to hear from somebody in the governor's office. If you email, you're going to get a response back. And on a monthly basis, those commissioners are going to sit, the new commissioners, are going to sit in front of me and give me a report out of what the people of Tennessee think. Because I think that's tremendously important. It ain't happening right now. And ain't is a good word in Roane County. It ain't happening right now. We're going to fix it.
And I guess this could be the last one.
If you've got time, we're moving into a meeting here, so I don't want you to have
I'm good.
Okay, let's go. Okay, current leadership wants to expand school choice next year. What is your stance on the current plan and future intentions?
So politicians lie to you a lot. I don't know that you all have figured that out yet, but they tell you one thing and do something else. And they obfuscate, to use a $2 word, the matter in many cases. So on this school choice thing, I think you already have school choice. I think God gave you the decision and the decision of where you send your kids to school. And I think that if you let government tell you that you don't have that, it might be Article 1, Section 2, I think it is, that says that if we just fall under arbitrary power, it is an absurd and slavish practice. I think if you read Article 1, Section 2, you'll see what I'm talking about there. We shouldn't do that. So I think that we sold this bill of goods that we aren't free to decide for where our kids go to school, and we used that to do something that was unconstitutional first. Article 11, Section 12 of the Tennessee Constitution, first sentence says that we recognize the inherent value of education. Everybody in this room recognizes the inherent value of education. We need to be able to learn and write and think critically and all those kinds of things. Second sentence of the Tennessee Constitution, Article 11, Section 12, says that the General Assembly shall means must, provide for the maintenance, support, and eligibility standards for a system of free public schools. So I voted against the voucher scam because it is unconstitutional. I think that is a specific and restrictive statement, and it did not permit us to use public funds to go to private schools. Our two grandkids that live in Tennessee go to a private Christian school. I'm completely supportive of that. I drive an F-250 XLT level. Ford people in the room? Any Ford people? Well, there's three of us. Yeah, I'm not going to ask any Chevrolet questions here. But if I wanted to drive a Lariat rather than XLT, should I ask you all to pay for that trim level? Well, no, that's crazy. The inherent value of education statement in the Tennessee Constitution is we're going to provide a means for people to learn to read and write and have a benefit in society. But if you want to choose something different, you ought to bear that cost. I don't care if that's a family member, a friend, one of the bureaucrats' friends, or whatever. We shouldn't be cutting these kinds of deals. I understand that they want to double that number this year. It was 20,000 people got it this past year. By some estimates, we'll get on the fiscal irresponsibility of it now. By some estimates, in 5 years, we will have spent $1 billion on the governor's school stamps, because that's what we did. And I'm not trying to be insensitive with this, but we're setting up something much like what we call SNAP today, only we're setting it up for the people that could already afford the expensive tuition, and we're going to send them $7,300. We shouldn't do things on income levels in Tennessee. It is soft socialism to do that, and we're practicing soft socialism. And if they get us accustomed to practicing soft socialism, and the establishment, is trying to do that now, they have been for decades, the next step is they have their boot on your neck telling you what you eat, what chemicals you put in your body, whether you're essential or not, and whether or not you can carry your shotgun in public. Wait, they're already doing those things. Are we in trouble? Yes. We are in trouble.
The post-COVID economy has increased living expenses and made home ownership increasingly difficult, especially for young people just getting on their feet. What are your ideals for improving Tennessee's economy to make life affordable and give young citizens hope in the American dream?
Well, that's a great question, and I will go back to the previous question and say this. Your next governor happens to be from Kingston, Tennessee, and he's going to end the voucher program in the state of Tennessee. And I think that ties into this question on affordability, because if we think in Nashville that we can continue to extract dollars from your billfolds and your purses and spend it on things that make us feel good or these little socialistic programs, we're going to keep taking that money from you, and the affordability measure is not going to get any better. So I'm sitting with a room full of chemists and physicists and business majors at the University of Tennessee earlier this week. And they asked that same question about affordability. We can't afford to buy a house. We've gone to college. We're going to have really good jobs, and we can't buy a house. A new teacher starting, we raised the minimum teacher salary up to like $50,000 a year. I think you'd have a hard time buying a house on $50,000 a year. You would where I live. I don't know what your real estate prices are here per se, but it's too high. But it's difficult. A new police officer, if you hire a new deputy for Warren County, I think that Warren County deputy is probably going to have a hard time buying a new house. Affordability is a thing. So what the first thing that government needs to do, and occasionally I've had this question, they'll say, would you cap the prices on this commodity or on houses or something? And they absolutely would not do that, because that's communism. Price fixing is the wrong thing to do. Part of the reason our healthcare system is in such a mess today, as Tom said, we've got too much government in it. And we have the Tennessee government deciding whether you can through a certificate of need, whether you can open a clinic or whether you could open a pharmacy or whatever. And then we have PBMs deciding that when your doctor writes a prescription for you because you're stressed out and have anxiety about your EMT job, that PBM gets to decide whether you get it or not. We need to get all that influence out and clean the economy up, and it is not going to be quick or easy, folks. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. We're in deep trouble in Tennessee. And we're much better than California and Colorado and New York. And thank God for that. But our country is in a dire place. If we don't turn this around and you don't stop keeping money in your pocket, which I think is the first answer to the affordability, is get rid of those taxes, not just for special interest group taxes, but for everybody. Start leaving that money in the pockets and the billfolds. Reduce the size of these state agencies and federal agencies. Governor Lee had promised to cut down. We have 15, 16, depends on how you count it in D.C., but you have cabinet levels. You have 15 in the U.S. government, right? You know how many you have in Tennessee? 23. And that was one of his promises, cut that down. I think we can whittle that 23 down a ways. And I think we can reduce some of the burden on the taxpayer in paying for some of those salaries. Did you realize that we have a Department of Human Resources for the state of Tennessee for the employers? And then in almost every one of the departments like corrections and like safety, you have another Department of Human Resources. Did y'all realize that? So we have redundancies in place now. We need to stop spending those dollars, leave them in your pocket, and stop sending so many to Nashville. You send $1 to Nashville, Tennessee, or Washington, D.C., you never get more than 99 cents back. I was just answering an email while Tom was talking. Somebody asked about grants coming from the state, and I know we've become dependent on grants. We need to fix that. You need to keep in Warren County the money that's in Warren County and stop sending so much to Nashville. We don't need to be playing in Warren or Roane County or Shelby County or anywhere else. We don't need to be playing this game with the bureaucrats in Nashville saying, could you please put a little in my hand? Because the way the grants work is they say, we're going to send you back some of your money, but first you've got to take some of your money and match that money before we'll send your money back to you. It's broken. We're teaching this. We need to teach a little more effort and a little more ingenuity and a little less of the grants thing. And so I know I'm getting preachy. No, you're fine. But she's telling me to calm down, Denise, like you do.
It's okay. It's all right.
We need to leave money in our pockets and in our communities and stop sending so much to Nashville and to D.C. And we do both. And then we fund those bureaucracies, and then they bless us with something. It ain't the way it works. It's not the way it's supposed to work. We need to turn that around in Tennessee, and I intend to.
Republicans typically run libertarian-type campaigns and then fall in line once elected. Just look at our current governor. How do you plan to navigate this issue once elected?
I'm going to try to be nice with this.
You're already going on a rant, so come on.
Yeah, I better take a breath, count to 3 or something before I answer that question.
I'm sorry.
First, let me say this. If nobody in this room votes for me, I'm still love you. I'm proud to be a Tennessean with you. I know I sound fired up, and I promise you, if you ask my grandkids, they'll tell you Papa's the sweetest person. I know sometimes I sound a little caustic with some of the things I say. I don't mean it that way. I am fired up about this because I think we're in so much trouble. I need your vote. I need your help to win this. I feel called to run for governor. That doesn't mean God's going to just miracle me in. Don't you misunderstand that message. But nobody's talking about these things the way that we're talking about things here today. So if I have to get at least 2 votes, or I'm going to be aggravated, Denise. But if I get 3 votes and don't win this, I'm going to be smiling just like I am now because I've been obedient to Almighty God, and I'll go back to hunting more, shooting more, and riding more motorcycles. And I'll invest in precious metals because it's important, lead and brass. Because I'm telling you, we're in trouble in this nation. And so I'm going to answer the call and say, here am I, send me. But if you decide not to, I'm still going to love you. I promise you that. So to the question, we better start electing leaders and not politicians. We better start electing people that won't just talk the talk, but they'll walk the walk. We better start electing people that have a demonstrated record that they can show you that they've stood up for things like passing legislation and making it a law in Tennessee that you can't be required to marry two men or a man and a tree limb. We did that. We turn our heads to things like this crazy Obergefell thing and just kind of, well, it's not touching me right now. And Tom was right. I mean, I almost amened him. I might have under my breath back there. The church has got to wake up. Those of you that are born again, washed in the blood, redeemed sons and daughters of the Most High God, you better start standing up and acting like it and being salt and light, because we haven't been doing that. And when we allowed God to be taken out of the school, and nature hates a vacuum, not only in physical terms, but in spiritual terms. And if you take God out of the equation in the classroom or in the courtroom or in the legislative body, if you allow weak people to have titles for things like faith-based initiative, what does that even mean? Every one of you all have faith that that chair is going to hold you up you're sitting in. That's not what we need to be basing our reliance upon. Amen. So we better start electing folks, men and women. And I pick on the men because we've got so many weak, effeminate men today, right? The last few years, we better fix that. There ought to be, the drug companies ought to be getting wealthy on testosterone, because I'm certain that there's a deficiency in it in America today. And most of them are elected. There ought to be a tea clinic outside of every state legislator's office and outside the governor's office where he can get himself a shot before he goes in and reads things and before he speaks, and have the guts to stand up. It's not happening. So I probably have said more than enough there.
You just say bless them.
Yeah, bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. That's what I always say too. So many things. But again, I want to say thank you to Bonnie Fritts for being here as well. Tom, do you want to come up and say your goodbyes before we end the show? And thank everybody for coming out here as well. Y'all just stay up here. We'll end it all together tomorrow.
So that's the end of the question and answer portion. We do have scheduled till 4 o'clock. I know I stay around. I'm not sure if Monty's got other places to go to, but this is the individual. We'll stick around. We'll talk to y'all. Again, thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your days to come out here and be a part of what is our republic. That's another side topic that irritates me to hear, democracy. But anyway, like I said, we'll be hanging around. Thank you all so much again for coming out. Stay involved, stay engaged, and hold our elected representatives accountable. Thank you so very much.
And remember, Warren County, you want to do it? Keep it first. Hold it out.
Everybody, don't leave yet. Are y'all done?